Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video. I'm GetGoodGuy, and today I'm continuing my coverage of the weapon crate update with a review of the Ross MkIII Infantry. You can find my previous reviews of this update in the description and my pinned comment. And as with those previous reviews, I'll be focusing more so upon the basics of the weapon and my personal opinion than I usually do. This because Simthic.com, where I and many others usually get the in-depth stats for BF1 weapons, hasn't yet added the new ones. So any stats I give you today are either from the game itself or are taken from the Ross Marksman and are stats that shouldn't be affected by a variant change. And with all that said, let's get into this, because I think the Ross Infantry is boss, as you no doubt saw from the thumbnail. In fact, it just might be my new favourite scout weapon, and is arguably the best infantry scout option in the game. And we'll talk about why, although keep in mind, this is from a console perspective. Scout weapons are one of the few weapons that I think are absolutely transformed depending on whether you play console or PC. But anyway, let's first quickly go over my experience with the weapon so far that has me so convinced of its position as a top tier choice. I got the vast majority of my footage for this video in one play session, and I felt like I wasn't playing especially well, just kind of average, and that I wasn't scoring points as quickly as usual. Well, I was wrong. I came out of that session using the Ross Infantry with a 5.2 KD and a score per minute of just slightly under 3,000. Keep in mind, I have something like a 3.19 KD, so this is way over my average performance. Now, I'm not saying this weapon will automatically up your ability, but for me, someone who doesn't really use infantry scout rifles anymore and didn't think I was doing all that well, it's a glowing reference of what the Ross Infantry is capable of. And so, what are we dealing with here? Well, the Ross has the standard damage model for a scout weapon with a one-shot sweet spot, that being a max damage of 100 and a minimum damage of 80. You can couple that with a rate of fire of 62 rounds per minute. For a point of reference, that's a little slower than the Gewehr M95, which has a rate of fire of 66, so 4 rounds faster per minute. And then on the other side, the Ross is faster than the SMLE, which can only dish out 52 rounds per minute, which is of course 10 slower. The Ross can then utilize this rate of fire while staying aiming down sight if you wish, as it of course doesn't need to have its aiming interrupted in order to chamber the next round. It then has a decent muzzle velocity of 740 meters per second. This isn't spectacular by any means, but it's fast enough that it won't be too hard to line people up in the distance. It's also the same velocity that the SMLE has, so if you're used to using that rifle, then you shouldn't have any issues using the Ross when it comes to leading your shots. And while we're on the subject of the SMLE, it and the Ross both have the same range at which they can pick up a one-shot kill on a full health infantry unit, that being between 40 and 75 meters, which for me personally is one of the best sweet spot ranges. Close enough for an exciting up-close playstyle, while still extending far enough out that you don't feel nerfed when you come across someone at mid to slightly long range. And so, with all of this talk of the Ross and the SMLE being similar, some of you may be asking why you should therefore bother trying the Ross when you already have your beloved SMLE. And well, this will come down to personal preference. Although initially, the faster rate of fire of the Ross is a definite advantage, but from there you have subjective reasons, such as the iron sights, which for me are much better on the Ross. I just find them very easy to use, and this is massive from my perspective. Good or bad iron sights can make or break a weapon, and it's the reason why I can't stand using the Enfield Infantry, as I personally just can't see through its sights properly. You can argue that I could use the radium sights when this happens, but I unfortunately generally just don't like those sights on many weapons, and I think I even do use those on the Enfield actually, and it just doesn't help all that much in my opinion. As I said, it's just personal preference. Beyond that, we have probably the most subjective reason, but it can also be a very important one. Feel. How does the weapon feel? It's intangible, but I just like how the Ross feels. Plus, I think it has better aesthetics than the SMLE. As much as I've enjoyed using that weapon, in fact I've used the SMLE Marksman variant a lot, I much prefer the look of the Ross rifle. Plus, this red skin, which is just a common skin, called the Saint Eloi or something like that, just really works for me. I think it looks great. But besides this, if we step out of a direct comparison between the Ross and the SMLE, I think this is a fantastic rifle when compared with pretty much any option. It has a great close range sweet spot, the ability to fire consecutive rounds without leaving ADS, plus sights that just work for me. As you can see in this clip, all of its abilities combined make for a very forgiving weapon if you're missing your shots for some reason. No big deal, just carry on until you pick up the kill. But also, at the other end of the spectrum, I find myself jealous jealous sometimes when watching PC gameplay of scouts picking headshots so much more easily and consistently with the precision a mouse allows. Well, for some reason the Ross on console allows me personally to hit headshots with much more ease than I'm used to. I can't really explain that, I just kinda aim near the head and it seems to hit, which is nice. Oh, and if you're wondering, I'm using 2x magnification in all of this footage. And so, that is the Ross MkIII Infantry. I love this thing, and I feel like whether you usually like to use the faster firing rifles or the slower firing ones with the sweet spot, you should give the Ross Infantry a go. It falls right between those two options and can be absolutely devastating in the right hands. But this is all just my opinion. What do you think? Are you excited about the Ross MkIII Infantry? And will it replace your go-to scout weapon from time to time? Let me know in the comment section below. Now, let's go over to the Board of Awesome for the fantastic people who allow you to get content from me full-time by supporting the channel on Patreon. They are genuinely the reason this is possible, so thanks to everyone on here. If you want to join them on the Board of Awesome, the link to the Patreon page is in the description and my pinned comment. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to turn on notifications with the bell button so you don't miss future videos, including the remaining weapon crate update reviews, and feel free to like, share, and subscribe. I'm GetGoodGuy and I'll see you next time. Laters.